I am super excited to introduce my guest. He's an Emmy award-winning director, writer, producer. He's directed and/or produced more than 20 independent films and documentaries. Some of his films are Witchboard, The Cellar, Brain Dead, Bigfoot, and the cult classic Night of the Demons, which I had the honor of being part of 33 years ago. I want to welcome the talented Kevin Tenney to the podcast.
Well, thanks, Billy. I'm glad to be here.
It's good to see you, Kevin.
You too, buddy.
You know, I was just thinking about it, when I wrote 33 years, it's crazy that we made a film 33 years ago and that this cast still feels like family. I mean, I've worked on a lot of projects in my life and I've been part of a lot of casts, but this is the only film that Lance Fenton drove by yesterday. He was, and he beeped his horn. It's like it's bizarre that we still have, this relationship. It's a family that was created when we made that film, and we're still close today. So I think it's amazing.
It's funny you mentioned Lance, because when I used to live on the west side, over by the Santa Monica airport, Susan and I would go to the Denny's for breakfast over the weekend, and we ran into Lance there all the time.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I created the podcast to inspire young artists to follow their dreams. If a kid like me who can come out to Hollywood at 18 with $200 in his pocket, a one-way ticket, and make a career, make the dream a reality, why can't the listener? If this is a dream, that this is your passion, that if I can do it, you can do it. I would love to, you've become an Emmy award-winning director. When did you know you had that dream to direct?
Oh, wow. Pretty early. I'd say about 5th or 6th grade. When my brother and I would walk home from school, I'd see an alley and I'd say, oh, that would be a great location for a movie. And I would make a note of it. And then Bell and Hal, the year I was in 6th grade, came out with a camera. Now, this is back before video, and even the Super 8 cameras didn't have sound. They were all silent. But this one, you could buy the camera, a cassette tape recorder, and a projector. And what would happen is you could put the film in your camera, and there was a cord that hooked the camera to the tape recorder. And then every time you pulled the trigger on the camera, it would roll the tape and keep it in sync with the picture. Then when you got the film back, you'd put it in the projector and you'd hook that same tape recorder to the projector, and it kept the sound in sync so you could listen to it. So I got that, and I wrote a detective murder mystery. And me and all my friends and neighborhood kids, and we're all 6th graders, we put on our Sunday best suits and play the parts of adults. And, private detectives, murder victims, criminals. And I shot the film. Unfortunately, because of the fact that it was hooked to this tape recorder, there was no editing. You had to shoot in sequence, and you had to get it right in one take, because you couldn't do a take 2 and cut out take 1 later. So we actually shot the film twice, because we got about halfway through before we fucked up a shot, and then we're done. We have to start over. So a few weeks later, we got back together and we shot about 2/3 before we hit a snag. And I realized this is probably not a really practical way to shoot sound. So from then on, I just used it as a silent camera, and I shot a lot of silent stuff. And then when they came out later with the sound Super 8s, that actually had a magnetic stripe on the film, and you could actually record the sound on the film and it would keep it in sync. I shot about 10 mostly action films, and they ranged anywhere from 20 minutes long to an hour long. And we had car chases, and we would go out like early Sunday morning when there was no traffic and shoot ourselves racing up and down the streets and making wild turns and skids. And then I decided for one film, I wanted to blow up a car. I called the police department and I asked to talk to the bomb squad. And this is a small town, Fairfield, California, up in Northern California, smack dab between Sacramento and San Francisco. And they said, we don't have a bomb squad. We have our resident bomb expert. And I said, can I talk to him? And they said, yeah. And they hooked me up with him. And I'm on the phone. I said, hi, I'm in high school. I'm like a junior in high school. I said, I'm making a student film and I'm going to blow up a car. And I was wondering if you could give me any advice. And he says, yeah, half a stick of dynamite should do it. And I'm like, I'm a high school student. I don't really have access to dynamite. And he said, oh, yeah. I said, I was thinking, though, that I could get a friend who's over 21 to buy black powder for me, and I'll fill a tennis ball can and set it off with like 150 feet of zip line. And he goes, oh, yeah, that'll work fine. Now, can you imagine trying to do that today?
No.
Talks to me over the phone. I tell him I'm a high school kid, and he proceeds to help me determine how to blow up this car.
Wow. So did you blow it up?
Yeah, we found a farmer who had a private property, so he had a road on his property, and I bought him a bottle of scotch, or I had my dad buy it for me to give to him, and he let us have his road. And we had a car that we used for the car chase, a friend's car, and then I bought an old clunker for like $50 that didn't run, and I bought like house paint and painted it to match the car we were actually using, and then we towed it out on the road and we rigged it up and blew it up.
I love it. I love it. Do you still have this film? I'd love to see this film.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually have, you know what? On my Facebook page, I have a clip of that car chase with the explosion at the
I'm
end.
gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, it'll be early on when I first joined Facebook, like 2009 or something.
So that's amazing. So you started making films in sixth grade with your friends. You know,
Right.
you got yourself a little Super 8 camera, and then as you started getting older, you started doing some action films and blowing up cars. And you said
Right.
you knew, you know, your whole life pretty much that you wanted to make movies.
Yeah, but I figured I honestly back then, you know, film schools weren't that prevalent like they are now. Prevalent like they are now, and I went to my junior college. I had no intention actually of going to community college because I'd hated high school so much. I would actually go to the class first day, figure out exactly how much work I had to do not to flunk, and I would do just that much work, no more. The only class I did really well in is creative writing because I enjoyed it and I was good at it. So I always got A's with a lot of C's. And anyway, community college, they offered a couple of filmmaking classes. So I thought, okay, that could be interesting. And I took those, and the teacher there had had gone to UCLA. And he said, after he saw one of my films, he said, you have to go to film school. I said, what's that? And he said, you have to apply to USC, UCLA, and AFI right now. So I did, and I got into USC and came down here. And even then, um, I was, and I think still am, the only student. You get to do 5 Super 8 films, then you would do 2, one with a partner. You were the director of one. He was where you did like black and white 35 millimeter, and then only a handful of people. You all got to pitch a script, and then the committee would pick, and only a handful would actually get to direct that film, and then everyone else was on their crew. You'd crew it up with the students whose films didn't get picked. And I did an undergraduate film TV project because I was in the TV department as an undergrad, and then I was a grad student as a film in the film department, and I did a film in as a grad student. So I'm the only student who ever did that. Did an undergrad TV and grad film, and my undergrad TV won the Emmy for best dramatic short that year.
Wow. So you have an Emmy Award for Best Dramatic Short. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I did not know that. You're an Emmy
Yeah.
Award-winning director. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I didn't really used to talk. As a matter of fact, I just recently dug it out of the garage, and it's all bent up because I did. I don't know why I didn't keep like putting it on the mantle when I moved in places. I would just pack it. I packed it up and then kind of never took it out of the box again. So I
Really?
have it out now finally, but it's a little worse for wear.
That's funny. So now you're at USC. You're making films, and then you know, how do you transfer, you know, transition into making some, you know, movies, you know, with a budget?
Well, again, I was turned down for the department 3 times.
Wow.
And I actually, and they wouldn't see you. You couldn't go talk to the head of the department because they were so used to having people want to come in and say, how come I got turned down? They wouldn't see you. So I made an appointment with the head of the department's secretary, and I lied and said I was already in the department and I wanted to do some career counseling with him.
Huh.
So I made the appointment, and then the day of the appointment, I go in and I come in and I sit down, and he comes in and he sits down, and he said, and his name was Mort Zarkov, and he says, so you have some career stuff you want to discuss? And I said, no, actually, I was turned down. I want to know why. And he goes, he was obviously caught off guard, and he said, well, all I can tell you is we had like 3,000 applicants and we only had room for 10, and those 10 were obviously better than you, or their applications were better than you. I said, I don't believe that. I said, I don't believe, not only do I not believe you had 10 applicants better than mine, I don't believe you had one better than mine. And he said, yeah, well, I was, from that point, I was, in for a penny, in for a pound.
Yeah, no, I love
I don't know if today I'd have the same balls, but you're young, you're kind of, you don't really understand consequences yet at that age. I was like 22 or 21, something like that. So he says, well, I wasn't on the committee this year, but I'll go get your file. And he walks out, and I hear him reaming his secretary for not making sure I was a student before he got, and now I'm beginning to realize this might have been a mistake, that I might have made sure I never get in now. So he comes back in, and he's looking through my file, and he sits down and he goes, huh. And he goes, and I had a letter of recommendation from my film school teacher up north, who said, I'm not going to write the traditional letter. I'm just going to say, I think Kevin's going to be a famous and great filmmaker. That's it. And you'd be crazy not to let him in. And I also, by chance, I took a drama class while I was waiting to get into the cinema department, because that's it. You always try to make sure you're keeping abreast of what's going on. I figured it was a class on how to direct actors. So I thought, okay. And by luck, Arthur Hiller's daughter was in that class, and I got to know her because she was dating a friend of mine at that time. And her father, Arthur Hiller, directed Love Story and Silver Streak, and he was the head of the Motion Picture Academy at that time. And I said, I'm trying to get in the cinema department. Do you think he might write me a nice letter? Because I'd met him by then a few times. And she goes, well, he won't write you a letter if he hasn't seen any of your work. So I gave him my Super 8 projector with a couple of my films, and he watched them. And he then wrote me this great letter, and in it he said, Kevin directs action better than I do. Wow. And Mort, turns out, was friends with him. And when he read that, he kind of lightened up. He wasn't like ready to throw me out of his office anymore. And he said, I wasn't on the committee, but let me read what they wrote here. He said, they wrote at the top of your page, Kevin would either be an excellent, brilliant student or a giant pain in the ass. And I said, why can't I be both? And he said, let me see what I can do. And a week later, I got a letter accepting me into the department.
That's amazing.
But again, you got to push, you got to.
Love it. The determination, it's like, don't take no for an answer. I mean,
don't sit on the sidelines.
Listen, I remember, and I tell the story on my podcast before, is when I came out to Hollywood, Warner Brothers, I walked over to Warner Brothers and I wanted to get into the lot, and the guy said no. The security guard said, sorry, kid, you can't come in. So I literally walked around the building, climbed the fence, cleaned, and I was on the lot, and I walked right up to Kevin Bacon. They were filming a movie, Quicksilver, and I hung out all day. Nobody knew I just jumped over the wall.
Yeah.
I was rubbing elbows, schmoozing and
Exactly.
like, don't tell me no. If you tell me
Yeah.
no, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but the determination is amazing that you got yourself into USC.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now you're in USC, and you talked about writing, and I think it's really important for directors or even actors to really develop their writing, because sometimes it's that ability that helps you create your own projects. You don't have to really
Right.
worry about somebody else giving you a job. You're the person, you turn the desk and go, hey, this is my project, you want to come read for me, you want to come
Yeah.
work for me.
Yeah.
So I mean, I believe
And
that's
even
what
if
you
you
did.
don't, even if, yeah, and even if you decide you're not going to write your own stuff, or you're not quite good enough to write your own stuff, it still helps you develop an understanding. So when you get a script, you can go, oh, this is good, or oh, this is not a good script. I don't know if I want to be attached. And it also, I think, for actors especially, it helps you to figure out how to develop your own backstory for your character. If you know something about writing, and you know about protagonists and antagonistic forces, and tragedy versus comedy and all of that, it helps you develop your backstory for your character, which then means when you come onto set to perform, you actually have an idea of who this guy is.
Yeah, I love that. I tell my actors all the time. That's the homework. You want to know who you are. You want to know where you come from. You want to know, if you grew up in Brooklyn, New York, well, you're a product of that environment. You walk differently than a kid that grew up in Beverly Hills. So,
Yeah,
making that choice, knowing what that childhood was like, if your father was a police officer, or if your father was a crackhead, that's a different kid. He grew up with a different
yeah,
father. He's going to behave
exactly.
differently. He's going to act differently. Were you rich? Were you poor? All of that, knowing all the history of the character is truly what gives you confidence, because then you can walk into a room and go, you know what? I know this better than you, the writer who wrote it, because you didn't write the
Yeah,
backstory. I did. I did a
yeah,
private moment exercise last night. I know what my character did last night. I know what my character has in their pockets because I put it in there.
yeah,
And those are
yeah,
choices. Those are truly choices. And I believe talent lies within your choices as an actor.
absolutely. Raw talent goes so far, then you got to do the work.
Yeah,
You
it's
got
all
to
about the
do
work.
the work. It really is all about the work, and it's all about the determination. I've read people early in their careers, some who read brilliantly and some who were like, yeah. But then, 5 years later, the star is the guy who read like, meh, because he had a lot more drive. And the more talented guy never went anywhere because he relied solely on just his talent and
Yep.
not doing anything else. I
Well,
say you got to, take an acting class. Even if you turn out to be the best actor in the class, even if you're better than your instructor, it's still, you're making connections. You're meeting other actors. And a lot of these acting classes, the teachers have ins with studios or producers or production companies or casting agents that you can benefit from.
sure. I get my phone rings all the time with student filmmakers going, "Hey, I'm looking to cast my film. Do you know any actors?" And I can't tell you how many of my actors are in those films. And it's a
Yeah,
great experience because these are passion projects from
yeah,
seniors in film school that
absolutely.
they have production value. They have they got a crew. I mean, you can get some good footage on this for your demo
And not
reel.
only that, every year when I was at USC, every year at the end of the year, they took the senior projects and they screened them for the academy. And every producer and agent in LA would come. It wouldn't be the top guy, it wouldn't be the guy that owned ICM, but someone from ICM would be there. Someone. Uh, I got a job. I got a 3-picture deal with Ivan Reitman based off of that screening of my senior film, of my
Wow,
graduate film.
wow.
He brought me in to pitch some ideas. I pitched a few with a writing partner. He picked one he liked and he hired us on the spot. On the spot. I was still a full time student. I was a TA, a full time student, and I was writing a script for Ivan Reitman while I was still a full time student at USC.
And for people who don't know who Ivan Reitman is, he did Ghostbusters, he did Twins with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito,
Did Stripes,
Stripes. I mean, he's
Meatballs.
Meatballs, some amazing
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. At the time I was working for him, um, Ghostbusters was at that point in time the highest grossing comedy in history
Wow.
ever. It and it was there for a long time. It finally got topped by Home Alone, but it was the number one comedy
So
of the time.
so I noticed, when I was looking at your IMDb, there was a couple of acting credits in there, No, I mean,
Yeah.
do you think it's important for a director to take an acting class?
Yes, I took several at USC. As a matter of fact, when I didn't get into the cinema department right away, the first year I was there, I was a drama major and I took a ton of acting classes while I was still trying to get into into the cinema department. So yeah, I believe it. I believe at USC you had to you couldn't just say I want to be a director and you only took directing classes. It was I want to be a filmmaker. You learned how to edit, you learned how to light, you learned how to do sound. We did it all. So I can do pretty much any job on the set, not as well as a professional I hire to do it, but that's kind of the point. I want the DP to be able to light the film better than I could light it. I want the production designer to design the film better than I could design it. Otherwise, why am I paying you, you know? And I
Yeah.
want the actors to act better than I could act.
Yeah, I think it's really important for a director to be able to know actors' language, know how to get them where they have to go. There's different techniques and different,
Yeah.
ways to get an actor where they gotta go. So if you don't know, you don't know, So, but
Yeah.
if you've studied the craft, you know.
But I also believe that as far as directing actors goes, 80% of your job is casting the right person in that role to begin with.
Yeah.
And then your job on set is a lot easier because you don't have to spend time trying to explain what you I when I was at USC, I took a directing class with Edward Dmytryk was the teacher who directed the Caine Mutiny and Warlock and a lot of big films. Um, with every star, Gregory Peck. He was actually one of the Hollywood 10. Um, but someone asked him. He said, "Say I have this part with this actress. Her mother, her character's mother died, and I need her to cry. How do I help her reach that memory, core memory that will make her cry?" And he said, she's read the same script you've read? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, so she knows the character's mother died and she's going to cry in this scene? And he goes, yeah. He goes, well, then don't hire an idiot. He said, she'll know that if she's actually an actress, she'll know that and she'll know how to access her core memory to get herself to cry, He's like, that's not really your job. Your job is to kind of like tell her, I want it hot, I want more, I want less, I want you to kind of, do it this way. But he said, if you have to take the time to delve into all of that with her, you're going to run out of time on set, and you hired the wrong actress.
Oh, it's good advice. I mean, so what do you look for in casting when you're in an office, casting a project?
Well, I always say that casting a project is not about casting the best actor per se. It's about casting the best actor for that role. You might have two actors, and one guy, 9 times out of 10, can act circles around the other guy. But this one particular part, the other guy is just perfect for. It's like he just gets that character, or he is that character, or that character speaks to him in some way, and he just nails it. If I get someone who nails it, like reads it exactly like I wanted, then I get really excited. But I also have him then, I give him directions to do it totally differently,
Mm.
even though he did it the way I want. And that's the way I'll have him do it if I cast him. But I will still have him do it completely differently. So I see whether or not he can take direction.
Yeah, I
Because
tell
it's great if he's good at it. He gives you that scene, but what if some other scene he's got it completely wrong? If he can't take direction,
you're
you're
screwed.
gonna be you're gonna be stuck with whatever he has.
Yeah, I tell my actors that all the time, that, you want to try it every which way possible, blow it out, go to the anger, go to, flip it, go the, so I, when you're in casting director, the director's going to say, okay, I love what you did. I love your choices. Now give me something else. You don't want to be like, what?
What? That's all I
you
had.
never
Yeah.
worked on something else. But if you did,
Yeah.
if you worked on something else and you made some other choices, then you're ready to they throw you a curveball, you hit it out of the park. Okay, you want something else? I'll
Absolutely.
flip it. I'll go completely the other way with it and
Yeah.
show you
Yeah.
that I have the range to play anything you want.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Because we might give you bad direction, at least I will in casting, just to see if you can do it.
Yeah.
You might have done it exactly the way I'm going to tell you to do it on set, but I want to see what else you're capable of, and for a scene that we're not reading for right now, you
Yeah.
know.
So that's a golden nugget for the actors out there.
There you go.
It's a serious golden nugget because directors will test you. They will see if you can give them something else. They want an actor that when they show up on the set, they know, one, that they cast the right actor, two, that, if I need you to give me something else, you're going to give me something else.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
performances are truly made in an editing room. So, if you give him the same thing 5 different takes, when the director's in an editing room, he's got nothing to choose from. But if you've
Yeah,
given him choices, if you tried it a little angry, or emotional, now when I'm in
yeah,
the editing room, I have stuff to choose from, and I can build your performance in an editing room. If you don't
yeah.
give me anything, I got nothing.
And you know what, too? I mean, if you go way out there somewhere, the director will pull you in. They'll say, you know what? Let's bring that down about 10 degrees, you know. The director knows what he wants, but hopefully I always know what I want. But I never tell I never tell the actor before we shoot a scene how I want him to play it. Because I'm hoping he'll do something better than what I had in mind. And I'll go there. I tell that to my, I had a sci-fi film, and the guy goes, "What do you want this? It's supposed to be an alien gun. What do you want it to look like?" I said, "Well, I know what I see in my head, but I'm hoping whatever you design is going to be 10 times better. Then if it's not, I'll tell you what I want. But hopefully, because this is your job,
Yeah.
you're going to come up with something better than I would have ever come up with." And I hope that with the actors too. I don't give a lot of direction on the first take because I want to see what you're going to do, and I might like it better.
Yeah, it's making films. It's such a collaborative effort. You bring all these talented people. You want them to do their job, like the actors do their job.
Absolutely.
The production do. Everybody do your job. And if you surround yourself with talented people, everybody steps up their game. The wardrobe, the hair, the makeup, everything. I mean, it's like Night of the Demons. When we made Night of the Demons, that was just, from the cast to the crew to the location to the production design to everything about that film, really gave, for me as a young actor, to step into that set, that house
Yeah.
that Hull house that was,
That Ken Eichley made. Yeah.
downtown LA, that the production, designers, they created a house that was scary. It
Yeah.
was, I mean, it was, you
Absolutely.
walked in there was, spider webs, and, it was just
Yeah. It's the
dark. And
11th character.
yeah, it was really
Yeah.
truly a scary place. And, we pretty
Yeah.
much, our dressing rooms were upstairs. We lived in the place,
Yeah.
pretty much. So, even just walking out of your dressing room trying to get down to set was like, you were looking over your corner,
Yeah.
because
It was a spooky, spooky house and
yeah,
huge.
and it's truly so much talent. Let's talk about casting that film. I mean, that's got such a great cast.
Yeah.
When I
Yeah.
look back at it, it just really, it's a great cast. Can
You
you
know,
tell me about?
yeah, that was a tough one to cast actually, for a couple of reasons. One, in the script, the characters are always like 10 kids or five or three or two, and everyone has one or two lines per scene. So I could have you read 10 scenes and you still only have three lines, you know? So I had Joe write twofers. I don't know if you remember this, where you had to do a scene that wasn't in the film, but it was just your character and one other character having an argument in character
Yep.
about whatever, or a discussion or something. And he did that for all 10 characters. He wrote 5 scenes with two of them, and so that we could have them read and actually get a feel for what they could act. Because if you tried to use anything from the script, it was too much of an ensemble.
Yeah.
On top of that, Witchboard hadn't come out yet. so I was still an unknown entity. Jeff, the producer, was an unknown. So no one knew if we, even though I had the 3 picture deal with Ivan Reitman, I'd left to go direct Witchboard. So I had nothing out there that Hollywood knew about.
I've got a question. How old were
Uh-huh.
you? How old were you when you directed Night of the Demons?
Oh, geez.
23?
Uh, no, no, no. I was older than that. I was probably by that point 29, maybe even 30. Because
Okay.
I think so, because I think I was 27 or 28 when I did Witchboard. So it was just like a year or two later. So somewhere late 20s or 30. Because I know a lot of the cast was early 20s, Um,
Yeah, I mean, that was 80, what, 87 we shot that?
yeah, actually, I think, yes, it was 87.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I was 21.
Yeah. April of 87.
Crazy. I remember standing outside of was it Red Fox's building, right?
Yeah, that's where we
That's all you had.
Paragon Arts was located in the Red Fox building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I remember standing outside, of auditioning. I think it was like my callbacks, like,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was and it was between me and, well, my best friend Ray
Yeah,
Oriel.
yeah. Yeah.
We're sitting outside, and it's kind of weird when you're auditioning against, your best friend,
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
part. Only one guy's gonna get the part, so it's always kind of weird. But yeah, I just remember vividly standing outside, waiting to go in with him out there, the both of us, and then
Yeah.
going in there. What do you do? Do you remember anything about my audition for that film?
Yeah, yeah. I remember how close it was between you and your friend. And the reason was because, the dialogue was all really funny, even though it was a horror film, some great
Yeah.
dialogue. Made me laugh when I read the script. Um, your friend, I don't remember his name, I
Ray.
thought was funnier than you. So I thought for the comedy angle, he was the better choice. But you came off more like a tough guy, rebel kid, and Tedra was like, "You want sex appeal for the girls? This is the guy." I said, "Okay, yeah, we have all these beautiful women. I guess we should have like the macho sex symbol for the girls." So that's how close it came.
Um,
That was it. You both gave great performance, so it wasn't even about the acting at that point. It was just like I said, it's not casting necessarily the best, it's who's best for this role.
mhm.
And ultimately we just all felt that you were better for it.
Yeah, I mean, just everybody from Hal, Stooge, Amelia, Linnea, Kathy Podwell. I mean, Tanzine, everybody, Lance, Jill Tereshita, every one of those cast members was like, just I think it's just a perfect cast.
Yeah. And it was hard because one, our budget was so small. We had to Tedra came in and said, I can cut our casting budget down. And we are like, how? And she said, affirmative action. If half the cast is minority, they give us a break on the cost of the cast. So it was like I said, oh great. So I'm now trying to cast this low budget film. I'm a director that nobody knows yet because Witchboard hasn't come out and become a hit. Um, Joe Augustin, it's his first script ever, so he's got no name value as the writer. Plus, a lot of the agents hated the script, just hated it. They thought it was foul mouthed and too crude and violent and all of that. So they even called Tedra. And people who had agents that had sent their people in for Witchboard told Tedra, no, we're not even going to send anyone in for this. So that was tough. Plus, it was during pilot season. So anyone who had a shot, who had done a pilot or had a chance of getting cast in a pilot, they're not going to do this crappy little horror film if they can maybe do something for NBC or ABC. So we had a tough call. And in some parts, we were down to we chose a different girl for Kathy's part originally. And then we had her read with a few people, and she had such a tude that we thought, you know what, I don't think she's going to mesh well with anyone else.
Mm.
And that's what we need, an ensemble. So we withdrew the offer. And then Tedra said, well, what about Kathy Podwell? And I looked at my notes and yeah, she was cute. She did a really good job, really likable, good actress. And I looked at her headshot, but she looked like she was like 30. And I said, oh, and she goes, she doesn't look like that. That's her headshot. She doesn't look like that. So I said, okay, well, let's bring her in. Absolutely never thought we would use her because she was just too old. She came in, the minute she walked in the door, I remembered her. I said, oh, right. And of course, she didn't look like her headshot. She looked like she was 12.
That's a golden nugget.
But yeah, and I tell people all the time, make sure you want your headshot to look good, but you want it to look like you.
Yeah.
Because if they bring you in on that headshot and you don't look like that, you've just wasted your time and theirs.
Wow.
Or you just lost a part because you don't look like what they're looking for on that photo, even though in person you're exactly what they're looking for. So anyway, it was very tough. And I said, so I have to have girls that are pretty, can act, will do nudity, and now I have to add minority to that. So that was tough. Luckily, women counted as a minority. So for 20%. So then we had to have 30% more people of color. So we managed to do it and got a great cast in the same, at the same time. Although Alvin's part was always written to be black. So it's not like we, tried to find a black guy to suit that. His character was always black. I like the idea that up until then, I wasn't a big horror film, but any horror film I'd seen, the black guy never lived,
Yeah,
so it was like, hey, that's kind of a cool idea.
Did you ever think or expect that this film would become a cult classic?
Did you? No way. I always say if you get in a time machine and go back and wander around on set, even though it was a great fun film to work on, I don't think you'd find a single person, cast, crew, or above the line that thought this thing was going to even. I was surprised we even got a theatrical of any kind, and then when we did, I thought it'd be in and out in a week. And the fact that we opened in Detroit in like September and stayed till December. What?
Well, listen, I was, I was the actor that got the pilot, and I got my own TV series on Fox,
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah.
And I found it interesting because I was on the original Halloween party poster for the movie.
Right.
It was like in alphabetical order, and I was down all the way.
Right.
And then when the Night of the Demons poster came out at top billing, it said my name first. I was like,
I think they picked the most popular characters, still kept it alphabetical, but I think they picked 5 of the 10. Like I think it was you, Kathy, Amelia, Linnea, and then either Alvin or Hal. I can't remember now. Yeah, I remember there was some bitching and moaning from certain actors. I had nothing to do with it. I didn't know in advance that they were going to do that.
I wasn't complaining. I had top.
No, yeah. But I think they picked, after seeing the film, they could tell which characters were going to be the most popular, and they put them on the sheet.
This is because I remember going around, and I had a TV series at the time, and I went to New York for the premiere. I was in Ohio. I was all over doing all the press for the film. So I traveled. Me and Allison traveled to the theaters, and it was pretty amazing being able to just see the film on a big screen in the theater in New York City.
Yeah, with an audience.
Yeah, with an audience,
and just have
reaction to it.
Yeah, and that's what was great. Every time I went and saw it with an audience, it was like, wow, this thing really works for the audience. They would laugh at the right place, they would scream at the right place. It's funny because Kathy Podwell then went on to do Dallas.
Yeah.
And she says when she was doing the soap opera conventions that half the fans who came to see her because she was on Dallas, the other half would bring posters and videos of Night of the Demons for her to sign. So she had just as many Night of the Demon fans at these conventions as she did soap fans or Dallas fans,
What's your best memory of shooting Night of the Demons?
Oh, geez. In general, I think after having done Witchboard, I thought Night of the Demons was a lot more fun. Witchboard, the characters were more three-dimensional and they had backstory baggage. So there were scenes that were very serious. So we'd have to, the set would have to become very glum so the actors could get there. And this one was kind of like, it was just a Halloween party. And so every day was just a lot of fun, and no, we never had to go dark. We never had to, you know, be quiet, and it was always like, hey, what are we doing today? So I had a great time. I think one of the best things for me was the mirror shot, simply because it worked.
Yeah.
Because if it hadn't worked, I was screwed, because it took so long to set up. I wouldn't have had time to then do standard coverage. If
Yeah.
the scene hadn't worked, we'd have been a half a day behind.
That
So
was a pretty awesome shot.
yeah, yeah. Thank God.
And it,
I mean, in theory, I thought it would work, but yeah, I remember Kathy Podwell looking at it and seeing a setup. She goes, "Oh, this is going to be cool. Have you done this before?" I said, "Would I be sweating like this if I'd done it before?"
yeah, well, it was tricky. I mean, every actor had to, you had to actually find your little piece of broken
Exactly.
mirror to
It's
get your
like
face.
taking finding your mark to a new level.
Yeah, to a new level. Yeah.
Find your mark, find your light, find your mirror piece. So that, and Angela floating down the stairs, floating down the hallway, because everyone we talk to affects people. All these, you're going to hang her by wires. It's all big, expensive, elaborate things that we just couldn't afford. And we were in a real house, so it's not like we had fake walls we could hang wires over. And I came up with the idea. I'd been watching Benny Hill, and he had a scene where all these girls dressed like bluebonnet belles um, were rolling around on stage, and they had skates, but the skirts, because they belled out, hid the skates, so they just looked like they were floating. And I said, Angela's wearing that big old wedding dress that comes out like a bell skirt.
Yeah.
If we stick her on skates and give her a push down that hall, she's going to look like she's floating. And we did it, and it looked amazing. But I thought it's so obvious. Everyone's going to say, "Oh, she's on skates." And to this day, I would have people come up and say, "How did you get her to float down the hall?" Because I think it's so obvious, because I know it's skates. But it worked. I have people tell me that was so creepy. When she started floating down that hallway, I was so freaking scared. And it's like, pair of skates.
Which project that you've directed are you most proud of?
Um, I guess, there's a couple. I really like a film noir, a neo noir thing I did called TikTok. They show it on Lifetime all the time, but they changed the title for Lifetime to A Friendship to Die For. But TikTok's playing somewhere on Hulu or whatever right now, and you should watch that version. Um, but I'm really proud of that, because it's really a great plot twisty murder mystery film noir. Um, Also, I did a kids film, a family film called Bigfoot, that I honestly, kind of like Night of the Demons, I took it for the money and for the chance to do a kids film, because I'd never done one, and didn't expect that it was going to turn out that well. I was really happy with the way it turned out, which goes to prove again. And then I did a sci-fi action film called Peacemaker with Robert Forster, um, and we became lifelong friends after that film. Um, and he said something, because he started out in A pictures, then he went down and he was in B pictures, and then Quentin Tarantino cast him in Jackie Brown, and he was back to doing A pictures overnight.
Yeah.
And he said, you can't control what's going on in that world, whether people want to cast you or they don't. He said, so all you can do is you take the best part you can find at the time, you show up, you know your lines, you do the work, and you give as good a performance as you can get, and you hope somebody notices. And that's exactly what happened. After years of B movies, Quentin Tarantino, who's a huge B movie fan, saw him in all this stuff and said, he's my Max Cherry
Yeah.
for
I
Jackie
mean,
Brown.
and brilliant cast. I mean, he's so
Yeah.
super talented.
Oh my
God
God.
bless
Yeah.
him.
Well, I felt so lucky to work with him on Peacemaker, because even though he was doing B movies, he was obviously an A-list talent. That never changed. Whether Hollywood saw him that way or not, he was always an A-list actor, and I got to work with him. And he was a fan of my work as much as I was of his, and we got a friendship out of that lasted till the day he died. Um, and I'll always be grateful for that. So I'm really proud of that one, because it has a lot of great action sequences, and a lot of the critics compared it to the original Terminator when it came out, saying it had the same kind of action vibe and all that, which was great. Witchboard was nice because we got a great quote from Stephen King about it. And, it was my first film, and your first is always important to you. So, but TikTok a lot, Peacemaker a lot, and Bigfoot a lot. And then, of course, Night of the Demons and Witchboard, both simply because they were my first two films. Night of the Demons was a blast. Like you said, we can not see each other for 10 years, and we all get together in a room, and it's like no time has passed. Yeah. When me, you, and most of the cast went to that convention up north a couple of years ago, just before the pandemic, man, it was like we were out drinking and going to dinner and hanging out, and no time had passed. It was like we were taking a lunch break from set, Yep. I just had a great time with you guys. And I think that's part of it too. You hire the right people and you get out of their way and they do good work for you. I've seen, or I've heard about directors who yell at people on set, or producers who yell at people. I don't think that achieves anything. If someone's doing a good job, you say, wow, good job. And then you stay the fuck out of their way. And if they're doing a bad job, you pull them aside and you say, listen, you got to up your game. And then, a few days later, if they can't or they haven't, you pull them aside again and say, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to replace you. You don't have to belittle people, and you're not going to get the best work out of them if you do. I don't think anyway. I mean, maybe some people react to that positively. I don't see how. I certainly know I don't. One of the things I always say on the first day of shooting, when I meet with the crew, I say, listen, one of you might have an idea. You might see me about to shoot something and think, oh, I said, tell me. If I like the idea, I'll use it. I'm not one of those that has to come from me guys, and I'm certainly not an ego when it comes to that. I said, if I don't like it, I won't use it. And at that point, you told me your idea. If I don't like it, I won't use it. I said, the only thing we're going to have a problem is if you keep pushing me to do it after I've already made my decision. I said, but I want to hear it, because if your idea is better than mine, I'm still going to get credit for it when the film comes out. Kevin was brilliant when he did that. And, the Grip came up with it or something. That's fine by me. Anything that I think we're all there in service of the film. So you as the talent, me as the director, and the below line crew and the above line producers, we should all be there serving what's best for the film, not what's best for our own egos. And that's the way I feel. And like I said, when I took Night of the Demons, I thought the script was funny, but I didn't think it was going to be a great film. I didn't think it was going to be some kind of groundbreaking masterwork. But I still came and gave 110%, because you never know. Yep. You never know. The film you think is going to be a brilliant masterpiece, and the audience and the critics hate it. And then the thing you thought was crap, so you phoned it in, that becomes a hit, and then everyone's like, oh, except for Billy Gallo phoned it in. I don't know, the film was brilliant except for him, because he didn't give 100%. So you always, and that's what Robert Forster said, doesn't matter what film I'm working on, I come and give the same game I give in an A picture and a C picture, and you got to have that attitude. You got to, because you don't know. As a matter of fact, I remember headshots. I had a casting director tell me once, said, tell actors that when you get your proof sheet, pick the one you like the best, but then show it to a bunch of friends and family and ask them to pick which, like their top 2 or 3. They will all pick almost within those same 3, and none of them will pick the one you would have picked. And that's because you don't see yourself the way the rest of the world does. Said, go with one of the ones everyone else picked.
Great advice. Let me ask you, if you could go back and give the younger you some advice, what would that be?
Cocky serves you to a point, but maybe not always. When I was working for Ivan Reitman, no denying his success. But for me, a great comedic director was Woody Allen. I thought Ghostbusters had its moments, but overall it was kind of meh, you know. I know that's sacrilege. Most people revere it like it's Gone with the Wind or Citizen Kane. I don't. So I think because of that, I had an attitude about, because what I was writing for Ivan was a comedy. I had an attitude about comedy and I didn't agree with what he thought it should be. So I think I didn't understand how freaking amazing it was to still be a full-time film student and have Ivan Reitman give me a 3-picture deal. I just, I was too young and too cocky and too stupid to realize I had my own office on the Columbia lot. But because it was such a long drive from where I lived, I stayed home and wrote the script, which meant that when I turned in the script, he didn't know me. So if he didn't like the script, he wasn't going to work with me. He just said, I don't like the script. But if I'd been there in the office every day and built a relationship with him, then he might have felt more like taking me under his wing and showing me what I was doing wrong, or at least what I don't think I was doing it wrong, but what I was doing wrong as opposed to the kind of comedies he made. So, you know, my cockiness got me into USC, but I think it kind of screwed my relationship with Ivan Reitman.
Got it. Yeah, it's great advice. You know, check the ego at the door. You know, that cockiness. It's
Yeah, it serves you to a degree,
yeah.
but don't let it become who you are 100%.
So if you could talk to a young filmmaker, an up and coming young filmmaker, and give them advice, you know, about you know, the business has changed drastically from when you
Yeah.
got in the game. You know, what advice would you give a young filmmaker?
Oh my God, it's so much harder now because with the advent of digital cameras and people in Wisconsin getting their friends together and shooting a feature horror film for $10,000 all in, and then they're going to the same distributor you're going to with your, $1 million movie. So you want some money up front because this film cost $1 million. The distributor can get the $10,000 film for free. So even if he goes out and sells that and only makes 60,000 off of it, that's 60,000 free and clear because he didn't spend a dime on it. The guys who made the film don't make any money, but that's who you're competing with now. So the market's a lot tougher now because of that. Um, and you would think people say, oh, well, yeah, but now there's so many more, streaming services. So there are a lot more areas where you can shop your film. Yeah, but you're not going to make any money doing that. That's the problem. So if you are making your own movie, um, you're doing it because it's a great hobby or you really love it to the point that you've got a day job to support yourself so you can make your movie because most of these guys don't make cash off of these kind of low budget films and the distributors just take it and run. And how are you going to sue them for money you're owed when what it costs for a lawyer is going to be more than the money you're owed?
Are you
You
talking
know,
about the horror genre?
any genre now, but horror is where most people do the lower budget stuff. But but yeah, I think for filmmakers it's tough. I say this: the one thing that helps, that was true when I was starting out, and is still probably the most true thing today is write a script everyone wants. That's so if you're a director, you pretty much have to be a writer too, until you're at a point where you're established enough that people are sending you scripts and hiring you just to direct. You have to write your own material and you have to write something original. I always go back to like James Wan's Saw. It was a seminal horror film. It was and it gets written off as torture porn, which it's not because I really don't like torture porn films. It's really clever. It's got some brilliant plot twists, and it's got a super strong cast. And it was made, I think, for like $1 million, which is not, I mean, is really nothing. But compared to like, the $10,000 movies that are getting made now, like Paranormal Activity or Blair Witch Project. For every one of those, there's a million that didn't get picked up or made no money. Um, so the script, get a script that someone will buy and produce.
Okay, so you've written many scripts,
Yeah.
so if I'm a aspiring filmmaker, I've never written, but I want to write a script, what advice would you give me as a young, up and coming filmmaker? I want to write a script. What advice? What book should I read? Where do we
Okay.
how,
Sid Field's book is probably the best. It's
okay.
actually written in script format while it's teaching you how to write a script. Um, but there are a ton of books out there. There's also just read stuff, read a novel, even though it's not a film. It's still, you learn all about character development and protagonist and antagonist or antagonistic forces. That's what things don't understand. A film doesn't have to have a bad guy to be a good drama. It has to have antagonistic forces. That could be a guy on a boat that's sinking, and every time he figures out a way to fix this thing, something else goes wrong. In film class, Mort Zarkov, who ended up being one of my teachers after getting me in the department, used to say, writing as a guy falls down a manhole and now he's broken his leg. So with planks and stuff down there, he manages to make himself a splint for his leg. But now there's a huge storm coming and the manhole is filling up with water. And it's like, okay, maybe that's not so bad. If he can tread water, he'll actually get him out. So he has to just tread water, but it's filling so slowly, it's going to take a while. So he's starting to get tired and he's having problems. And he figures out a way to, take a board and make himself like float a little. But now as the water's rising, he sees a damaged electrical wire. And he realizes when the water hits that wire, he's going to be electrocuted. So now what does he do? And that's good drama. There's always some kind of antagonistic force that he overcomes, but then there's something else in the way. And so no bad guy, no villain, just this hero who's in all this jeopardy from natural causes, but it's still the same as if he was fighting a bad guy who's circumventing him at every turn.
Yeah, so those are the obstacles.
That's it. Obstacles. He used to do a thing in class where he would say, okay, and he would stand at one end of the class and then he would walk across to the other side. And he goes, not so exciting, right? Then he would climb over the desks and the students and everything to get to the other side. And he said, a lot more interesting.
Love that.
Yeah, that always stuck with me.
So what's next? So what's Tomb of Terror?
I'm writing my first comic book.
Nice.
Now, when I was in middle school, my brother and I used to draw our own comic books. Not great, and they were all our own characters, but they were basically ripoffs. We had a Captain Wonder character who was pretty much Captain America.
Huh.
We had a character called Tarantula, who was basically Spider-Man, that kind of stuff. But they were own comics. Our brand was Wonder Comics, and we each drew about 5 different heroes, and we draw like a monthly issue of each one, basically just for ourselves. And I loved doing it. And I wasn't a bad artist, but I knew early on that I was never going to be good enough to do it professionally. So when I discovered the film camera, I knew that was what I was destined for. But I still love the idea that, I'm creating a comic book. So I found a comic book artist who's drawn for Marvel and DC and all the big name brands, and who, by the way, his name is Thomas Tenney, and we're no relation. But I thought, how could we go wrong? 2 Tenneys working on this comic book. So I'm writing it, he's drawing it. It's a horror. It's going to be a limited 3-issue edition, and we've already got publishers interested in it just based on the idea and the 2 of us being attached. So,
Awesome.
yeah. So I'm really excited about this because, I haven't done comics since I was in middle school. So to have, one being drawn by Thomas, who's like a brilliant artist, is just, great. Just, I'm so excited about it. It's probably going to be another year or so before it's done, but I'm still, every day it's like, how are we doing, Thomas?
I want copies when they come out.
Oh yeah, 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 absolutely, absolutely, man. I mean, that's what everyone's getting one for Christmas. That's my Christmas present that year.
So Night of the Demons. It's really 33 years since we made this
Yeah,
film, and I,
which
I
is amazing because I was like what 12 when I made it. So
yeah. But if these fans are truly amazing fans. I mean, we've
Oh my
gone to the
God.
conventions, and I'm blown away anytime we go and we see these fans. They come, they've got Amelia's
Yeah.
tattoos on their body. They're
Oh
just
my
like,
God. How many people have you seen with Angela or with Amelia tattoos or Linnea
it's
tattoos? I
amazing.
saw one guy with a Stooge tattoo,
Yeah,
it's like, holy
I'm
cow.
just jealous nobody's got a Sal tattoo.
I know. Hey, ladies,
Yeah. So,
do
but
a Sal tattoo.
if you could, talk to the fans right now, because I'm sure Night of the Demons fans are going to be, listening to this podcast. For me, I just want to say thank you for all the support. You're
Oh,
truly
absolutely.
diehard fans. It's always a pleasure to meet you guys and take pictures with you and sign autographs. I want to give a special treat to the fans. I want to put together a table read of the original Halloween party script that I found in my closet over here. And I made a
Cool.
bunch of copies of it. And what I want to do is I want to put a table read and I want you to direct it. And we'll all sit
Yeah.
around. We can do like a Zoom, like they
Yeah.
did with,
Yeah. I can read all the action while
yeah,
you guys do your characters.
I think it'd be a lot of fun to have the full cast do a table
Yeah.
reading, and we can do it live on Facebook or Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's in the
Absolutely.
works for the fans out there. I really truly want to put us all together. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think
Absolutely.
the beauty is how much fun we had. We had fun making the film. So I think, when you see it, you feel it. I mean, I tell my actors all the time, when you go into an audition, you do all this stuff, make sure you're
Yeah.
having fun,
Yes.
because if you're having fun, then I'm having fun watching you. If you're
Yeah.
in your head and you're worried about your lines or whatever, but what people are going to think about you, I say when you're in your head, you're dead. When you're in your heart, you're smart. You're coming from play, you're having fun. It's a different energy. And I think truly what was captured on film with that Night of the Demons is the fun we were having. It was a big party. It was,
Absolutely.
playtime, and we were playing. We were playing,
Yeah.
scary. Like when little
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
like a
It
little,
was like it was a genuine Halloween party where we were
yeah,
all trying to scare each other in our costumes and just have a good time.
yeah. So it was a
And
blast.
yeah, and too, I find that I find it endearing, actually, personally, when a young actor or actress comes in and they're completely together and they're doing their part and they're really reading it well. But you look at their hand and it's, let me get it up here. It's like they're holding their page and
Yeah,
it's like that. And okay, in spite of the fact that they're presenting themselves like this is important to them because look at how they're shaking,
yeah,
And, um, but like you said, that's the only way I should be able to tell you're nervous.
yeah.
Everything that you should be projecting this confidence.
See, but you know what I call that? I call that excitement.
Yeah,
Because you're on the right path. This is what you want to be doing. So your instrument
absolutely.
is vibrating and it's going, yes, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So that little tremor in the hands, that little heart palpitation is like green light, go. This is where I'm supposed to be. Getting
Yeah,
outside your comfort zone. If you're doing stuff and you're not, you're comfortable, everything I truly feel you want is outside your comfort zone. You got to get that. You
yeah,
want
yeah,
that. That's like
yeah.
batteries for an actor. You want that. So
That's
don't
why I
turn it
took
into, yeah,
that's why I took Bigfoot.
yeah,
It was a family film and it was like, okay, I went home. It was Bigfoot though, so we had this big animatronic Bigfoot monster that looked great. Uh, uh, it looked as good as the one from like Harry and the Hendersons, just
yeah,
really.
awesome.
But I went home and I told Susan, I said, I'm finally doing a family film and I still have to deal with a monster, you know? I'm still dealing with special effects and monsters, even on a family film.
So, if you want to say something to the fans,
Yeah, I got to tell you, it's exciting to meet the fans who come and tell you, "Wow, I saw this when I was 12," and I think, where were your parents? But there was a time when we started doing these conventions when I wrote it off to nostalgia. These guys saw this film at their impressionable age. So of course it means a lot more to them than it would if they saw it now. But when I started going to the screenings, and there'd be like, 20% of the audience had never seen the film. And these were grown-ups now. They weren't kids anymore. These are people in their 30s or 40s, even their 50s, who had not seen it. And they see it and they would come up and go, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'd never seen that film before. It was great." It was, Hal was friends with a director, the director of Valley Girl, and she came to a Night of the Demons screening, and I thought, "Oh my God, I can't think of her name. I'm gonna hate myself later for not. Yeah, it's right on the tip of my tongue, but big director, and art film director." And I thought, ugh. And I was just worried that she was, I was embarrassed that she was going to hate it. And she came over to me after the screening and said, "I can see why this film's so popular. It is so hip and funny and sharp and original." And it was like, wow. She sent me this nice email later just saying how great it was, and Martha Coolidge. And getting that email from her was like reading the article by Stephen King where he said nice things about Witchboard. It's just, wow, somebody whose work I admire and who is, really successful is a fan of my work. It's like Todd Allen, who starred in Witchboard, worked on Django Unchained, and he said over lunch, Tarantino came over, sat down across from him, and started talking about Witchboard and Night of the Demons. It's like, holy cow,
that's awesome.
That's just, it's like amazing when someone who's that successful and does it that well. So, it's whose work you admire then admires your work as well. That's nice. But it's the fans who keep it popular and keep it current and make it, not only, I don't know about you, but when we were making this film, not only did I not think anyone would even know about it 33 years later, it's been released on VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, Blu-ray. There have been 3 or 4 documentaries, another big one still to come out, a soundtrack album.
Yeah,
I used to have people ask me,
it's 1, 2, 3, a remake,
a big budget remake with name actors in the remake.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's like, who knew? But thank God we brought our A game when we were doing the first one, so that all of that could come after.
Awesome. Kevin, I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast.
Oh, hey, I thank you for having me, buddy. I hope I gave you 1 or 2 interesting nuggets.
There was a lot of gold in here. So, this will be released probably like a week before Halloween. So this is a Halloween gift for the fans.
Halloween edition.
Yeah. All right, Kevin, stay safe, stay healthy. I look forward to seeing you, once things.
Yeah, once this is all behind us.
All
absolutely.
Get together.
I was thinking that, we've had so much fun at these conventions that I want to actually have a party and have like a Night of the Demons reunion, just party, everyone from the film over here at the house, or hey, maybe do it at your place.
Right
a party, no screening, no, just us hanging out and visiting like we do when we're at the conventions.
Right here at my studio, we can have the movie playing in the background, and
there you go. Yeah, perfect. Okay, that sounds like a lot of fun. Maybe next year when you can do Halloween, we'll do a Halloween party there.
That would be awesome.
Since that was the original title.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for having me, buddy. I'll see you soon.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Please rate, review, share this with your friends. Subscribe if you haven't. Please take whatever you get from here, the golden nuggets, and apply them to your career. Go after your dreams with passion. Don't let anybody tell you it can't be done. I believe in you. Follow your dreams. I'll see you in Hollywood.